why are politics so important to entrepreneurialism and small business at this point?
Well, I mean, if 2020 and 2021 weren't good enough indicators for you when they started telling you if you were, non-essential or essential and that you could work and then you couldn't. And, I see a lot of people abusing that because, shout out to all my performance shop guys that said, oh, we're car repair centers, and they still got to work, right? Because technically that's what they're listed as for like tax reasons, right?
Yeah.
So that really pissed me off when they started saying business owners were non-essential.
What's going on, everybody? It's Anthony from #BetheChange. Truth will set you free. And of course, this show, Blunt Force Discussion. Each week we have something a little bit different. I know we've had a little bit of fun. We talk to people that create movies. We talk to people that have their own shows. We talk to Gold Star wives. You've seen a lot in the last month or so. This show is one of the more fun ones that I get to do because we get to talk about entrepreneurialism, being better, finding a way to make more money and enjoy your life. And at the same time, I'm sure politics are going to come up as well because it's 2022. That's just life at this point. So we're going to have really fun topics today. But before we get started, I want to do really quick, speaking of capitalism, talk about the people that are sponsoring our show, helping us out. First off, got to give a shout out to Tony Van Schoik. She's the woman, the myth, the legend with Monate. She has been helping me out, helping the show out, as well as we are also a market partner for Monate. We are having people start to use the products. They've got some really good stuff. I've been using the hair creams, the hair shampoos, the conditioners, and also learning how to take care of my hair better, which is part of what the company does. They do have a lot of market partners, aka MLM, aka network marketing, but everybody that works for them starts to learn more about business and about their hair. We're also going to be talking about side hustles later, and I don't know, I'm curious to see our guest, Tony, talk about what he thinks about network marketing. We will see. But if you guys want, please go to bluntforce.mymonate.com. Again, that's bluntforce.mymonate.com. They are vegan, cruelty-free products that have also gone through the ringer of testing like no other. There's also a newly released clinical hair product that will help regrow hair. So that'll be my next shipment from them. So again, bluntforce.mymonate.com. If you want to be a market partner or learn more, go to bluntforcediscussion@gmail.com. Good stuff. And then last but not least, of course, as we know, the world is absolutely bonkers in terms of food shortages. I always like to say I thought that this was just like a weird prep thing and people have lost their mind. And now I'm kind of like, look at all that Bill Gates and Chinese farmland. Maybe I should. So as you guys know, My Patriot Supply is one of our affiliates. So check them out if you want ready hour emergency food from My Patriot Supply. This is the best way to do it. You can save $50 on a 4-week food kit. And all you got to do is go to preparewithbtc.com. Again, that's preparewithbtc.com. Get $50 savings off your 4-week food kit. Last but not least, we got a whole line of t-shirts. As a lot of y'all know, I'm rocking the Awake Not Woke hat right now. In America, we can agree to disagree. That's the great part about this country. For some people that feel that way still, whoever they are, go to awakenotwokestore.com. Use Awake for 15% off. We've got a whole new line with the 9/12/01 shirts as well. Check that out, and then we are about to come right back and get the show and the party started. Yeah, it's all right. It's easy for me to grab them. That's the good part. So again, last thing also is we need all the support we can get. And to those that are on Area 52 TV, welcome. Please, $5 a month. I feel like Jerry's children from back in the telethons of the day. But go to patreon.com/bluntforcediscussion. Again, that's patreon.com/bluntforcediscussion. All right, we have got an awesome guest today. I'm going to let him really talk about himself, give him an intro. Him and I met at the Great American Summit put on by Dave Brown and Barb Allen. Learned a lot about him. Patriotism mixed with business is the great part. He's exited companies, made lots of money in his life, car enthusiast, so I know we're going to have some fun chats about that. And somebody that truly just wants to improve the world and improve people's lives around him. And I really can't wait to talk about his past to see where he got from there to now. So ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Tony Whatley.
Hey, Anthony, I'm not sure your audience is ready for a double dose of Anthony's today.
I know.
It's a lot.
Tony squared.
It's a lot to happen here.
Yeah. So you're an Anthony, right? And then go by Tony?
Yeah, formerly Anthony, but yeah, I go by Tony.
The artist formerly known as Tony. So my mom always said it had to be, she named me Anthony. So whenever somebody tried to say Tony, it created some problems.
It was the other way for me. My mom is Japanese and she liked the name Tony, and she wanted to name me Tony, and my dad had to correct her and say, it's actually Anthony.
I like it. So you have a great background, and some that I know, some that I've heard you talk about, and I'm even going to go back further to see essentially where you got to where you are in terms of speaking and entrepreneurialism. But you had your first company, I think it was it LSI Tech? Was that
LS1 Tech.
LS1. Okay, God. Okay, LS1. Okay. What was your first made it business?
That would be it. I started that one in 2001.
Okay.
And it's an online community for General Motors performance car enthusiasts, and it grew to the #1 in the world for General Motors.
Okay.
And we had about 150 advertising accounts and live events and racing events and 300,000 registered members. And then I took that same business model a couple of years into it, and I built performancetrucks.net. And that grew to about 280,000 registered members for truck enthusiasts that like to race each other. So we just found that these niches existed from an automotive enthusiast standpoint that, hey, if I can get a lot of leverage, get a lot of eyeballs, a lot of attention, we had over 100,000 unique visitors per day. So if you're out there listening and you're a small business owner, imagine having 100,000 per day walking through your front door. That's the kind of traffic we were getting. And this was back 2001 to 2007 when we sold it for a couple million. But growing it started out just as, hey, I just wanted to make a cool place to hang out on the internet for my friends to come talk about cars. Had nothing to do about making money or making millions of dollars at that. So it was really I just wanted a cool place to be creative, places that I could write how-to articles and teach people how to drive faster, make their cars look cooler, and, how to set records around the track. We were, all these new LS1 engines, or the Corvettes, the Camaros, the Firebirds, the GTOs.
Now I get the LS1
So
part.
all of them were basically, we were the hub for all of them. So, and it's still, those sites exist today. A large company bought all the #1 marquees of every brand, and they still own those portfolios of all the websites today.
And that was just a side business for you. I believe. Were you in oil and gas at the same time?
I was in oil and gas. I was an engineer and working offshore oil and gas. About 27 years old, I got into that industry, and I worked in there almost 20 years.
Wow.
And I think it's because I put myself through engineering school, and it took me 7 years. I was working as a welder, a fabricator, a waiter, waiting tables, a mechanic. And so it took me a long time working full time to finish school at night. And my mom and dad, they didn't have educations like that. I was the first one in my family on both sides to go to university. And so I had a lot of pride and drive to kind of fulfill, like, hey, I get this degree. And I was kind of going on that executive path in corporate.
Right.
And I was doing both. I was doing exceptionally well in entrepreneurship and corporate at the same time. And the funny thing is, I kind of led two different lives. I even had two different LinkedIn accounts. I had one that was like Tony Whatley / automotive and Tony Whatley / oil, because I didn't mingle those two groups.
Right.
And by standards, I would say measurable. I did really well in both industries. But in 2015, I decided to leave oil and go full-time entrepreneurship. So.
Yeah, and you spoke at the Great American Summit, and we talked briefly. I believe as though you're a student of John Maxwell, correct?
I've read his books, and I've never been to any of his programs or anything like that.
Okay,
no,
so I remember we talked about it, and I remember you said, you've read on Maxwell. I assumed. Yeah. So when you started speaking, what motivated you to get into public speaking?
It came out as a roundabout way. Okay, so 2017, the first paid group that I was in was actually Lewis Howes, and we actually got back from his event in Columbus a week ago.
Yeah,
and so he gave me advice on the business model of building a coaching and speaking and a podcasting business, because I knew that I had a lot of information, because for 20 years I'd helped people that worked for me and staff members and friends build 7- and 8-figure companies, and had like 12 of those people build massive companies. And they kept telling me that you should be doing this full time. We look at these results that we're having. And, and honestly, I had a really comfortable life, family, full-time career. I was running businesses still. And the real reason I didn't want to put myself out there is because the stage fright, and I didn't like being on camera. I didn't like the way my voice sounded as a recording. And so all these insecurities is what kept me from really doing what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
And I just said, okay, I'm going to write a book. I said that, and people are like, oh, yeah, that's really impressive. You can be an author and best-selling author. And it went number one on Amazon and small business category in May of 2018. But while I was writing this thing, I was giving a chapter at a time to my editor. And his name is Mike. And Mike's like, man, this book's really good. It's like really good. And he's going to sell a lot of copies. I was like, oh, cool. I hope so, but if it doesn't, at least I tried. That's kind of the mindset I had about that. And, halfway through the book, he's reviewing it still. And he's like, man, I bet people are going to want to interview you. And I was like, oh, shit. I was like, there's that.
That means I got to talk.
Yeah. The whole thing, I was writing a book is to avoid being on stage, avoid being on camera. Like, I can just put what's in my brain out in the world in a book, and then I don't have to do all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then he slapped me in the face with that again. And I was like, wow. And so I said, okay, well, there's got to be ways to get over this. I mean, I've done it in corporate, but it's a captive audience giving slideshows. I mean,
right.
That's your team. It's not you're not trying to entertain them.
Right.
You're paying them, right? And so I just joined Toastmasters, public speaking and leadership. It's a nonprofit. They're everywhere in the world. It was one by my house. I joined that and I participated. I sat in the front and I said, again, it's painful, but I'm going to make myself do it. And I wasn't getting any stages, obviously, so I just did videos. I did a video on my phone on social media like every single day for over a year. And hence the brand 365 Driven was kind of born from that. But I really sucked at it. And I knew I sucked at it. I was okay with that. But I knew that, hey,
suck at it?
I sucked at it.
He did.
I sucked at it. Monotony.
Monotony. That's a good nickname.
Because most dudes just talk like this: one speed, one cadence, one volume, one pitch. We don't ever have any emotion in our voice. It's just very monotone. That's how most dudes talk, right? And so I'm doing these videos, and to give you an idea how much I was uncomfortable with this, I was consulting a natural gas company at the time, and when I get back to my truck in the parking lot, I still had my tie on, and I put my little phone in the holder on the dash, and I would think of something to say to make a video for it. And shit, I would take like 10 takes of this video. And here's the other thing. If I saw a single human anywhere within eyeshot, I turned it off and I just waited for them to disappear. Yeah. And they're like on the other side of the parking lot. They couldn't even tell if I was in the vehicle. But I felt really weird talking to a camera. I felt really weird like making videos. And, and after I would do 10 takes, I would kind of shuffle through them and find the best one of them. And I was okay. This is it. This is the best I can do. And I knew that
sounds like Kris Jenner.
Yeah.
A little bit different.
Yeah.
You get it.
Yeah. It's best she can do. But
that was a total curveball. You heard about? Did you hear it? They found out that Kris Jenner was actually made them reshoot the sex scene with her daughter and Ray J because the angles weren't good. Yeah, it's just coming out now.
This is all planned.
That was all planned. Once it was about to come out, she's like, "Oh no, this isn't a good angle for my daughter." How ridiculous! You didn't hear about that?
Well,
yeah, how ridiculous. So, anyways, totally different than that kind of stage.
Off of that sidebar, all this really tells us is how big of a mastermind she really is.
Really is she? Yeah,
she masterminded this entire thing. It wasn't by accident.
Right. I mean, would total sidebar as we said, but would Kardashian be with the Kardashian family without that initial sex date?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Yeah.
I mean,
she sacrificed as tribute or whatever it is.
I mean, crazy stuff.
So I'm with you though, and so the car thing took me a little. Well, I always was good in front of a crowd. Never had a problem in front of a crowd. I've been doing that for like 15 years. I guess even more now. But there was something. The first time I ever auditioned for a commercial, 6-hour drive to Atlanta. It was a script. It was perfect. I was one of like 50 people they asked to come. They pretty much told me, they're like, just don't screw up and it's yours. 3 lines, could not memorize them for some odd reason. And it was more the issue of I was used to people, not the camera. Wow. It was totally weird. And I had to get better from there. And then COVID, even, that was not my strong suit, but I started doing more and more shows. Same type thing, muscle memory. And now there's nothing more comfortable than me in my car in front. And like, there's just people tiptoeing around. And I'm like, I don't care. And the last question, because do you still do a bunch of takes?
No.
So I've always been better live, and I don't know why. When I do recordings, it's like 5, 6, 7 times. I still redo them. Yes. When I go live, I have no problem because I know that I can't screw up. It's just you make a mistake, you just keep going. Nobody notices. But
that's a hack you learn later on, though. After you do enough reps, you start to realize like live is actually better because you're actually entertaining real humans instead of looking at a lens and pretending it's your best friend, right? So, yeah, it's just do it. Just do a one and done. And, you know, we're so critical of ourselves. See, here's the thing about public speaking. Within 6 months, I started winning competitions in Toastmasters because I went all in and I studied. And I studied some of the greatest speakers and learned the tactics. And I took notes and I did these reps and these videos. That was my stage.
Yeah.
And so I was winning these competitions and getting invited to bigger stages all less than a year from having stage fright to doing that. And the thing is that I realized what people had told me, my mentors in speaking, was that when we have that nervous excitement, like I'm sure you get podcasters that come in here as a guest and they're kind of nervous and they're like their hands are shaking and they don't want to hold notes, right? And so that nervous energy is the same thing as like when you're taking a stage when you don't feel like you're prepared enough, or you're worried too much about internally about you. You're worried about how do I sound, how do I look, am I dressed right, am I going to remember my lines, like all that. It's me, and that's why we mess up, right?
Yeah.
But as soon as you start to realize that it's not about you and it's about serving who's on the other end of that camera or who's on the end of this microphone or who's in the audience, and I'm just there to entertain, educate, and inspire them, I'm focused on serving them. It's no longer about me, and then I'm not nervous anymore. So that if you're out there and you want to be a speaker or on stages or on camera, realize that that's the phases you're going to go through. You're super nervous because you're thinking about yourself. If you can think outwardly, that goes away.
Big time. I was on, I'd done spring break. I mean, I've been in front of tens of thousands of people at a time. I think up to 70,000 for a 2-minute bit at the Georgia Dome. And then I went the backwards way. So I went from these big crowds to then going, I want to speak on overcoming failure. And that was my topic. There's a whole backstory, but that was essentially the thing with my dad. And it made sense. And I remember getting in front of a crowd the first couple times, and I did what other speakers would do. I had the PowerPoint. And you know what? There's some great PowerPoints. And I mean, I think you use PowerPoint. You're one, and you used it the right way.
I used photos.
No words.
No words.
I did it the way that I had seen other people do it. And I'm not other people as anybody is. And now I teach speaking, it's the same thing. And also memorization doesn't work for all. Some people it does. Everybody has a unique trait when they speak that they need to hone and realize to be them. As I said, I couldn't memorize 3 lines on a audition. Exact same concept when I speak. So what's been some really great feedback you've gotten? Because you've spoken anything from corporate to big stages. What's kind of the favorite thing that's most enriching from speaking?
To me, it's just really getting the emotional response from the audience.
Yeah.
You know, if you can't connect to them with an emotional story and get them on the highs and lows, it's like the roller coaster of emotions.
Yeah.
That's the subject of a good speaker. Because if you think about this, any memory that you have, good and bad, is attached to as an emotion.
Yeah.
You know, so if you just see things that are cool, but they don't give you an emotional rise, you're not going to remember those things. But things that scared you, things that made you very happy, they're always anchored with an emotion. So if you're a speaker, you realize that if I can go out there and set some emotional anchors and have the takeaways from this speech, this presentation, so that they take the message away, the emotion is what keeps them memorizing what you said. But if you just go out there and go monotone and just be really boring and do that, like it could be the exact same message, but they're not going to feel any emotion, therefore they're not going to remember anything.
Yeah. So we're both people, we give advice. We love giving advice. You've obviously you've had some evolutions in your career. You've evolved. You had your first $2 million or multi-million-dollar exit, I should say. When you were younger, what's the best advice you got when you were starting your career? And then I'll ask you what your best advice you've gotten as you've gotten larger and larger in the industry.
I think when we're younger, we should be investing in skills and knowledge to be able to monetize that things. Now, you and I both probably agree that college is largely a waste of money for 90% of the degree plans that are out there.
Now.
Yeah, now we do. When I was young, information was not accessible. So my parents would say things like, you're going to be hanging on the back of a garbage truck if you don't go to college, because that's just what happens, right? So
6-figure income.
If you can make if you can make 100,000, right? They didn't understand that part, but if you can make 100,000, they thought you were successful, right? And that's largely still the same belief in middle class Americans.
Right.
If you make 100,000, like you're successful. But I hate to tell you, with inflation, especially like Joe Biden inflation, that's not even a lot of money nowadays. No. And so you should be focusing on investing in skills and knowledge that can create income. These are tools in your toolbox to create a living. And it ain't about just going out there and finding hobbies and such like that to make your income, but like, what are the tangible skills and knowledges that you could teach yourself? Like trades, to me, I'm big on trades. I was a welder. I was a pipe fitter. So go learn the skills, invest in it. It doesn't take that long, like less than a year in some of these situations where you can actually go make that 6-figure income in year one in some of these jobs.
And start to invest it and
start figuring out what you want to do. Like, it's okay to like not know what you want to do. I'm about to be 50 years old in a month.
Yeah.
Every decade of my life, I had some different pursuit or different purpose. And it's okay to be like that, because I think if you're a younger listener and everybody's asking you, what's your purpose? What do you want to be when you grow up? Like, you're not going to know. Like, most people in their 40s don't even know that yet, right?
Yeah.
They're stuck in a job. They're paid enough to tolerate what they do. They're afraid to leave. And so they're just going through the motions every single day, not knowing why they're doing it, but it's just because, they're paying me enough. It's a good job and these kind of things like that. But maybe they'd rather be an artist or a comedian or a podcaster or an author, all these things that they dreamed about when they're kids. Because when you think about when you're a kid, man, you ask a 5-year-old, what do you want to be when you grow up? They don't tell you an engineer.
Right.
They don't tell you like a librarian. They don't tell you a lawyer.
Sometimes they even say they want to be a different gender, but that doesn't mean we should listen to a 5-year-old.
It's true. That is true. But we're such big dreamers as kids, and what happens is we go through the public school system and they just crush your dreams and they tell you like, you'll never be able to do that.
Yep.
And then you grow up as an adult believing that.
And then the confusing part is I think we get beat down so much then once we become an adult, we don't know how to face adversity. And you brought up something interesting. It's like, when do you call it quits and leave the job to do something bigger? But then at the same time, when is it too early to quit? It's such a fine line, especially for entrepreneurs. And you just did a video, I think a couple days ago, or I think it's your kind of like new main video, that you want to push yourself and you want to find something fulfilling. And when you do find it, great. But there is also times, I would say it's, when to hold them, know when to fold them, but you got to know when it's not too early to do it. What's your opinion on that?
I think it's stupid for most people to quit their career to go pursue something full-time in entrepreneurship, unless you got a job that's paying you $36,000 a year. Like, if you have a really low income, waiting tables or administrative role, you could probably quit that and go create something and replace that income pretty quickly. But if you're making $100,000 or $200,000 and you've built your lifestyle around those numbers, the best way to do this is to build yourself some runway. And that's by sacrificing the cost of living, by downsizing your lifestyle and maybe downsizing your car or your house or where your rent is or whatever. Just start saving up. And if you can get 6 months to 12 months saved up of runway just to cover your bills, if you minimize your bills and you save up 6 months, that's the runway.
Yeah.
That means I have 6 months to make this thing take off. So if you do decide to go full time, you can hold yourself and pay all your bills for 6 months. And I'll tell you what, most people, it scares the crap out of them to think about that. But what they never have experienced is going out and having to hunt and kill for themselves and being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And then they get into the mindset of, what am I willing to do to not have to go back and get another job? Because once you get into that mindset, man, you're going to win.
Yeah.
If you start thinking like, dude, I'll go wash cars, I'll go mow yards, I'll go do whatever to not have to go back to a boss.
That means it's time to get out of there.
Yeah, then you can win. If you don't have that mentality after a few months of doing it on your own, probably going to lose.
Yeah. I remember the first COVID Zoom whatever thing that I gave. I was like, all right. It was Q&A. It was super weird because it's like you're kind of getting the comments on the side. You're looking at your computer and it's like, this is new. And then now this is just the way we do it and we're used to it. But I remember the first one, and the one guy asked me, he's like, when do you know it's time to leave? And it's hard. It really is such a fine line, like you just kind of illustrated. Yeah. But to me, if it is, once you've made the shift, into that dream of yours, say you've left the other job and you're working on this, you've got just enough coming in, but then it's been a year and 2 years and it's not changing, it's not going anywhere. My thought process is this: when you're failing and not making enough money is not the time to leave.
Right.
It's when you wake up in the morning and you dread that just as much as you dreaded the 9 to 5.
Oof.
Day after day. Like one day you're gonna hit some rough spots where you're like, this is pretty miserable. But when you are dreading that passion, that's to me when it's time to leave.
Yeah. And in another case, it's also situational based on the business that you create.
Yeah.
For example, we go back to LS1 Tech. That website was profiting just under $400,000 a year. And I was working maybe 2 hours a week to create that kind of income. And so people would ask me, well, you're making so much money. Why didn't you quit your engineering job and go full time on that? It's like, did you not hear what I said? I worked 2 hours a week to create that because we put the right people in place, the processes and systems were in place. that was just generating money whether I was there or not. And so me quitting to go add 38 hours more a week on top of that would not have increased the top or the bottom line because we're already number one in our niche. And so adding more hours would have not amplified it by that amount of time. So it really was costing me nothing to operate that business after I got it going for the first year. And so why not go make an extra 150 to 250 a year working in engineering full time? So to me, I think about full time as the job that takes the most of your time, even though you're part time, your side hustle can actually be making more income.
Yeah. And that was the name of your book. It was Side Hustle Millionaire, right?
Correct.
So explain a little bit about the book, why you decided that, I mean, you've got 365 Driven as your brand, but why was Side Hustle Millionaire the name of the book, and what all does it cover?
It kind of goes back to what I mentioned in the early part of the show, was that I had a lot of results from helping friends also in oil industries or people that I raced cars with, people that I knew. I was giving them a lot of advice or starting these different companies, and they were able to maintain their careers for a long time and actually build these companies at the same time until they went full time.
Yeah.
And I started to realize that a lot of times people just didn't understand the digital space. They didn't understand online businesses. They kind of think about like the way I grew up, where you're riding your bicycle down Main Street in your small town, and you think that if you're a business owner, it required you to have a brick and mortar shop with a sign on the front and Whatley's Plumbing, or it's always your last name and whatever you do, right? So that's the way we grow up, thinking like, oh man, that takes a lot of money to have a store and like employees. Like I'm never going to be rich, because that's the way we kind of grew up, that defeatist attitude, like takes money to make money and that stuff, right? And so you start to realize, like the internet, I mean, I've been playing around the internet since 1996, and I started thinking about, man, I bet I can make money doing this stuff. Like there's got to be, like all these people we're reaching, because think about this. You guys heard I had 100,000 people visiting that website on a daily basis. You're not going to have any, like the busiest store in this Dallas-Fort Worth area is not going to have 100,000 people walk through the front door in one day. It's just not going to happen. So when you start to realize that the entire world could be your customer base, and you can be open 24 hours a day online, and you don't have to have a whole lot of employees once you create the stuff to go and manage the things. And I just started realizing, man, a lot of people are just learning things extremely hard to make limited dollars. And so I said, I'm going to write a book on this. And that wasn't the title, actually. It was The Hustle was the original title in the manuscript.
Yeah.
Because I used to play competitive 9-ball billiards.
Really?
Yeah, in college. And I said, okay, it's going to be like a cliche, a punny thing, the hustle. And editor shot that shit down. He's the one that named the book. And so
I think it's smart.
Yeah, he was really smart. And the thing is, like, me, I'm not like arrogant and like I'm super awesome and look at all this stuff I have.
Right.
And like I'm not like that. So when you hear the title Side Hustle Millionaire, it kind of comes off as like, oh, who's this guy think he is, right? And then I would get introduced on stages like that, right? And so he tells me this title, and I'm like, Mike, let me think on it. Let me sleep on it. And I slept on it, and I gave him a call, and he's like, okay, so what do you think? I said, well, you've helped a lot of books. Mike Fallett.
Yeah.
Like, he's helped a lot of people with books that became bestsellers. He knows what he's doing on the market.
Was this Fallett, the digital? Okay, got it.
Back in 2017. And so he goes, okay, look at the title, Side Hustle Millionaire. He goes, which of these two words is false? Did you not create a business on the side that made you millions? And it's like, no, they're both true. It's like, then what the fuck are you going to care about what critics think?
Exactly.
He goes, that's your story.
Yeah.
He goes, that's what's going to grab people's attention. That is your story. Like, they can't dispute that. It's public record, right? And so I said, okay, I'm just going to have to grow into this. And this was when I started doing the public speaking, and I had to become the right person to carry that title.
Yeah.
And most people are unwilling to change and evolve to step into a role that's their calling. I invested all in to go do that. So the book itself, to go back on that topic, the book itself is to help people take the ideas that are rattling around in their brain, or they're talking about at the water cooler at work, or over lunch with friends, like someday I'm going to open a business, and someday I'll do this, and someday I'm going to be rich, and it's all this someday shit, right?
Yeah.
So I said, okay, what if I have a process that allows you to take the ideas that are in your brain and do some simple little calculations to figure out which of those 5 ideas is going to give you the best odds of success. And you can calculate this, the simple math, right? Working backwards, looking at the time that you have allowed, look at the resources that you have available, look at your interests, look at the risks, look at specialized knowledge or equipment that maybe you have access to that most people don't. Because a lot of times people can do this with their jobs, and their boss is cool with it, right? And so I said, okay, we could come up with a little simple matrix and we can go, okay, this one gives you the best odds of success, like financial or time-wise, however you define success. And that's the one you should go with, because I find that a lot of people with these someday ideas, they sound like a cool idea, but they're not going to make any money. When you've been doing this a while and somebody pitches you an idea, like, dude, that's a stinker. It's not going to make any money, and here's why. But
you can even hear it in their voice. And sometimes there's some ideas you're like, that sounds like a terrible idea, but holy shit, you are convinced that it will make money, and I'm not going to be one of. And there's people that you see too. I always say the ones in the conference, it boggles my mind. You look at when you go to different conferences, you see the people that are like, this is what I want to do. And you're like, this person is an absolute idiot. And then you see them 3 years later and they are millionaires in their little niche because they were the epitome of, you're not going to tell me no. And they will fight past the people that you hear that you, sir, are absolutely brilliant. That is a great idea. But they're like, someday I'm going to do it.
Yeah. It goes, I mean, some of these business models are very hobbyist.
Yeah.
And you could see that the time doesn't scale out. Maybe you're going to build hands-on widgets, arts and crafty things.
Yeah.
And you're going to do these every single night when you get off work at the kitchen table, and you're going to run them off to the craft fair on the weekend and try to sell these things. Like, how much do you really think you can make doing that? I mean, if it takes you an hour to build one widget and you sell it for $20 and it costs you $10 in materials, like you made $10 an hour.
Do a little math on that.
Yeah, you made $10 an hour. Like, how many hours you got? You got 3 hours a night before you got to put the kids away? You can make $30 a day. Like, good side money if you want to spend money on going to the football game or going out to eat.
If you love making widgets.
Yeah, if that's just all you want to do. But like from a business perspective, like if you want to make $100,000 a year, like how are you going to do that?
Yeah, it's not going to scale.
No, it doesn't scale.
So I don't want to get off that business actually now, because you had 100,000 people back when server traffic was very, very hard. How was that business actually set up to make money back then?
So initially we had what we call lurkers, just like you see with most social medias. And we were looking at the server logs, and we only had about 50% of people actually registering for accounts, and 50% would just surf it.
Yeah.
And in order to attract advertising revenue from sponsors and advertisers that wanted to be in front of that audience, they need to see real registrations. And the benefit of that is that we also get their name and their email address. So I can build these lists of hundreds of thousands of people, a lot of value, right? And so I said, well, how do we get these people that are just lurking to sign up? I mean, because they can see the website. And so we came up with the idea of just doing giveaways. We said, okay, well, I don't want to spend any money on giveaways. So how do we do this giveaway stuff without spending money?
Yeah.
And easy. Well, we had at that time maybe 20 advertisers. These are performance shops, car manufacturers, parts manufacturers, racetracks.
Online Fast and the Furious.
Yeah, just as like all like automotive performance. I mean, we had Chevrolet and Pontiac, and all of them were advertisers too. So
to anybody under the age of 30, Pontiac was a very popular brand in the United
States. Died in
States.
2009, I believe.
Was it 2009?
I think it was 2009 with the G8s, right?
Yep.
And so I would just go to one of those sponsors and I said, hey, would you like to be the featured sponsor of the month? And they're like, yeah, that sounds great. Like, we're already making so much money from your traffic anyways. Like, how do we do this?
Yeah.
It's like, I just need $500 gift certificate from you that they'll spend with you if they win. What, we're going to get customers and we're going to get featured spot and everybody's going to see our name. So yeah, so cool. And so I said, I also need one that was for $250. So like $750.
Yeah.
Two different things. And so then I would go create a post that says, Anthony Russo is the featured sponsor of this month. Here's the big ad. Here's a little bit about his shop. And anyone that's already registered, you're already in the drawing for the $250 giveaway.
Yeah.
But anyone that newly registers, you're in the drawing for $500 giveaway. So everybody's like, oh, all we got to do is register.
Yep.
And then that built it and built it and built it. And you started seeing, like, when Facebook came out, 2008, 2009, people were building their Facebook groups. They were using the exact same process.
Tactics.
They're giving away iPads or
You were pretty early. You were doing that, what, 2001,
2001, 2002.
So it was such a funny thing. There was a shift that was made because that used to be a hard sale.
Yes.
To the actual advertisers, because they'd be like, I don't want to give away any of my profits and my money. And it's like, so here's the deal. Yeah. Your average ticket price is what? $1,200 on whatever, and if we give away $500, you're still breaking even, and you've got a whole bunch of new customers on top of it. Yep. It took a long time to get to the psyche of the business owner to realize that giving away free money was actually making more money. And you were that's an early adopter of that. So that's pretty cool.
I mean, and the business model is not too unlike what we see on Facebook and Instagram. It just monetized through traffic. So we realized that the more traffic that we could get,
Yeah.
more registrations we could get, the higher we could charge for rates. And also we would attract more quantity of advertisers. So we built this business model that had a really high annual recurring revenue. I mean, profit, it was like an 88% profit margin. So
Yeah.
we're profiting 400,000, and it was just guaranteed. I mean, people would pay a year in advance for advertising. We'd give them a 10% discount. They would pay a year in advance. If they did 6 months, we'd give them a 5% discount. They would just wire you the money or send you a check. You know, and Lisa and I, we used to sit there every quarter and lick stamps because there was no online invoices. There wasn't like PayPal wasn't a thing with invoicing. So all I had was mailing addresses for these businesses. I had the contact names, and I had so many different price points because we grandfathered prices in to keep people loyal. And if they left, they came back at the higher price. So we had probably 30 different types of invoices back then.
Yeah.
That took
Quick-
forever.
QuickBooks hated
Like
you.
every quarter, we had to lick
Reconcile and
stamps,
all
make
that.
sure the right invoice went to the right address. And then when they didn't pay, basically we just emailed the person that was in charge of the account and say, hey, we didn't receive your check, so we're going to go ahead and delete your account and close down all of your employee accounts
Yeah.
on the website.
So were you making your money on affiliates as well, or was it strictly just advertising?
Just
dollars?
advertising.
Okay.
Yeah, we
That was
had
probably before affiliates were a thing.
Google links were a thing, but we never wanted to put the Google links, the ones that would highlight words. We never wanted to put those on there because it would degrade the entertainment value.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
the users were there for free.
Yeah.
But we knew that if we built the leverage by them, I mean, we were treated like the royalty of the media too. The General Motors, all the engine launches, vehicle launches.
Oh, you had
I wrote
inside info.
I wrote all the magazine articles for like the new Camaro when it came out. And,
Yeah.
and so, you know, we were basically
that
treated
new
like
Camaro.
media. And, you know, companies like that, you know, LS1 Tech, we're, I hate to say it, we really kind of put the magazines out of business
Yeah.
because we beat them by speed and by price.
So you're an environmentalist. I got it.
Yeah, we're saving trees. We're saving trees with our digital green footprint.
Talking
But-
about, the gas powered.
I mean, you think about back then, a magazine ad, a half page ad was about $5,000 a month,
Yeah.
and it would take 3 months of preparation before it went to print. So if you had some hot item that you wanted to put out to market, you gave it to them, and 3 months
be
later it
correct.
got published.
Yeah.
They knew that they could come to our website and go, hey, look at this hot new item. We can sell these today. And like, boom, today they can start making sales, and they can interact with the members by answering questions and make sales directly. And we were charging at that point maybe $150 a month.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
it was
run,
like
had
we
to run
kicked
right
them
out.
really
Which
bad
is
on
now
the
what
price.
magazines charge. And
Yeah.
we will actually give it for free if.
Well, you know, those Forbes councils, you have to pay now to write your own articles.
Yeah.
See, so.
I love look. I mean, again, I love anybody that's working hard, but the people that are selling magazine space ads, you kind of look at them and it's like, and yeah, I think there's still definitely a value in it, 100%. But when they talk about the impressions and like with a straight face,
It's such a low number.
yeah,
It's such a low number.
You're gonna get 150,000. No. How many are we gonna get for real? How many? And then they're kind of like, well, it gets sent to this many. It's $150 a month. Just try it.
And when it was in its heyday, they talked about subs.
Yeah.
We had 1 million subs. Like,
Yeah.
oh shit! Now they're going to talk about impressions because they will sell 25,000 on a book stands national.
Yep.
And they'll give away 75,000 copies to put on people's lobbies and airports and all kinds
Yeah,
of stuff, just to say they're out there.
Just say they're out there, which is, I mean, a big deal. And lastly, on the business, why did you exit it? Did somebody make you an offer you couldn't refuse?
Yeah, it was never for sale. And you know, the thing is that only about statistically between 1% to 3% is what they say of businesses actually get sold. Mm-hmm. And it's because not that 99% of businesses aren't for sale, it's that 99% of businesses aren't worth anything to a buyer. Mm-hmm. And that's a real hard, tough love lesson because you may actually have a really good income from that business and you decide to go sell. Nobody wants to buy it.
Yeah.
And people are just blown away by that. So really in the last couple of years, I've been taking on more clients to help with the coaching to build the valuation of the company.
Yeah.
And then go to market and have a portion of that exit. So, you know, we had a couple 8-figure exits in the last 2 years. And it's because I have had that experience. I understand the emotional turmoil that goes through. I understand all the terminology. I understand how they get you on the earnouts. I know all the gotchas on both sides.
Yeah.
And so my job is to increase the valuation of my client's business over a period of year, at least because they look at the trailing 12 months, get their EBITDA, their net profit, so to speak, as high as possible. Then we can go take it to market.
Yeah.
But most people do it the wrong way. They go, hey, I want to sell my business. Maybe I'm getting old, or maybe I want to retire, or maybe I think it's worth $100 million. They have all these imaginary things, just like real estate, right?
Yep.
And then they go to market and like tumbleweeds blow through their offer and like nobody cares and like nobody's interested. And they're like, but I was making $250,000 a year doing this. Like no one, like it's got to be worth $10 million. Like they just don't understand business.
I had a staffing agency, a promotional staffing firm, and we were over $1 million revenue a year.
Yeah.
I was in that 200 to 300 range for several years, but I knew, because each industry is also very different, and I was also the intellectual property, and that's what I've learned as I start scaling other businesses right now that are still at an infancy stage compared to where that one was. I know that my structure was flawed. Right. My structure did not provide an exit, and when I got the value on it, it was. I think we got the actual paperwork, which you have to spend like $5,000 to $7,000 on the paperwork.
Appraised.
Yeah, you get it appraised because a couple people were interested in buying, and it was appraised right around $400,000. And it's like, you look at it, and thankfully, because I am a very honest person, I didn't sell it. I merged with somebody, and I just kept my business going for a year or two, and then COVID hit, which ended the event industry. I would have felt very, very guilty because it was a good friend that ended up merging with it, and for me to give him that, and I was the business.
Yeah.
And that's a solopreneur is very different than an entrepreneur. I was very happy. I did well. Yeah. But the scalability level just was not there.
To me, it's better than a job if you have the freedom. If you're doing something you truly enjoy, and you can make a good earning from that, like go be a solopreneur. Go do that. But now, if you're a solopreneur working a craptastic job and you're working 16 hours a day and you're stressed and you look 10 years older than you are, go get a job.
Yeah.
Go get a job.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Enjoy your weekend.
Yeah.
I know you talk smack about Fridays. People live for Fridays, and
sure.
I could not agree more. I love working on weekends. I don't think my girlfriend quite understands that. She loves her horses. She understands it for her, but she's like, if it's not horses, why would you? Last thing before we do shot seat. So you got great advice when you were younger. Mm-hmm. You're still, you work with Lewis Howe. You still have some really, I've seen all the photos you take. Some big deals aside from yourself. What's the best advice you've gotten as you've continued to scale up in your own career?
I would say that if you don't have money, you better have time. And that goes back to that investing in your knowledge and your skills. If you don't have money, you better have time. But if you do have money, pay people that know what they're doing to get you the result in a lot faster because you can accelerate time.
Yeah.
So go hire the coaches, go hire the experts in each of those tactics or strategies within business. And here's another thing. If you're out there and you're listening or watching this and you think that I want to go start a business, maybe because you're really good at skill, maybe you have a high skill or a high knowledge base in some subject, and you think that you're going to go start a business in that, you better have the same level of knowledge in business management and marketing and accounting and all the other, tangibles of business success. You better have that same level of investment in that knowledge as your skill set. Otherwise, you're going to have bad odds of success. Because I think a lot of times people enter the entrepreneurship phase just really thinking that, hey, I'm a great welder, I'm going to go start a welding shop, or I'm a great mechanic, I'm going to go start a speed shop. Like, they don't understand how important it is to understand business, and then they get into the swirling downhill of the cash flow just killing them, and they go bankrupt, right? So make sure that you invest in hiring the people that can teach you business. That's a business coach or accountability group that's focused on business, things like we do in 365 Driven. But just make sure that you don't overvalue what you have and undervalue what you don't have. So spend the money, go get around people, get around the right rooms, see it as an investment, not a cost. Because it's funny, dude, because like I'm a coach and people will come to me and they're like, hey man, I got these big dreams and I want to do this. And it's okay. So what kind of like financial goals are we talking here? Or what kind of time goals are you looking to carve back to get for your freedom? Right. And they're coming at me with $1 million problems like that. I want to go from 3 million to 4.5 next year. It's like, okay, that's a pretty good jump, 1.5 million, and then you tell them like, okay, it's $20,000 to work with me on this structure, and they're like, oh, it's like, do you not understand that if you can add a 1.5 to your top line and spend, I'd write $20,000 checks all day long to do that. They don't think about this kind of stuff, and a lot of entrepreneurs are very egotistical and they want to be self-made and, I got this far by myself. And but what got you here, we always say that what got you here is not going to get you there. Yeah. So you got to go be around the people that think different on a different strategic level that can see a lot longer ahead in the forecast. And then that's why I hang around with guys like Ed Milet and Andy Frisella, Arte Syndicate,
Yeah,
guys
you're in
like
the
that. Those are
Arte
my
Syndicate.
those are my mentors, and
Yeah.
they're in the hundreds of millions of thinking, right?
Of course.
So I have to distill that down and figure out how it applies to 8 to 10 million type ranges. So that's the kind of thing we have to work backwards from where they're at. But if you didn't understand how they thought or how they operated or how they could see, you wouldn't even understand where they went from where you're at to get to that level.
Yeah.
You wouldn't understand the A to B.
Yeah, and that makes sense. So when I talk, because I'm not a sales coach. I'm not very specific. What I talk about is I'm a soil coach. I help the soil get ready because you can spend $20,000 with you. Yeah. Well, I think you're more of a mindset coach too, but like you can go to somebody that's specifically going to up your ability to close sales.
That's right.
But if you're miserable in your life and you're not ready the soil's not ready. You're going to be spending $10,000 on a seed that's a really great seed that'll bounce right off the soil. So I work on that soil, and I think that's super important. And it's being around people, and people will look at. And here's the other thing to that is I've invested. Well over 50,000 in the last several, probably even closer to 6 figures in the last 10 years. Have any of them had an exact ROI that matches? The answer is no. But the people that you meet throughout it, there might be that person that you start to work with that is actually free. And people will go, see, you didn't have to pay for it. I'm like, no. I had to pay to be in front of the right people and with the right group. And how do you pronounce it?
Arte Syndicate.
Arte Syndicate. Yeah. The guys like Frisilla, we run in very similar circles, obviously. And fact is, you spend the money, and no, you might not see an exact check out of the $20,000 they spend with you, but you might connect them. You might give them some lessons. You're going to learn along the way as long as you have a positive attitude.
That's right.
And you might end up connecting that one dot that leads you to another dot that's going to put you into that 7-figure category.
Be in the right room.
Be in the right room, big time.
The high level of Arte Syndicate, all in, is about $100,000 a year. When you factor in the events and the meetups and things like that, they got rid of that program a couple of years ago. But when we were in it, it was like basically $100,000 a year. And when you tell that to some people, they're like, holy shit, like you're spending $100,000 on coaching and hanging around with people. I can get one client and make that money back from that group. And I have had multiple clients. So that's the kind of thing you got to think about. You invest to get in the right room with people that can make decisions, that actually have a high net worth, that can actually pull the levers, or they can connect you, like you said, with their contacts. Yeah. And man, that's like the best $100,000 I've ever spent.
Think big, win big.
That's right.
Let's do the don't get the shot seat. We will be right back. So you get to pour yourself a little bit of water.
So I can pretend.
You can pretend. I don't drink much anymore. I drink, I think, more in this room than anywhere else. That's pretty much it. Barb, by the way, did not realize. So it's the shot seat, but it's sip seat. It's not like we don't take it all at the same time. We're just kind of, we're adults. Barb, not an adult. Definitely not an adult. She just slammed that son of a bee sting.
Well, you call it a shot, so.
Yeah, but it's the don't get the shot seat. And I'll explain why. As I've got these lovely supplements in front of me. So it's the don't get the shot seat. By Artist Labs. We've got a lot of his products. He's been a guest on the show twice. Brilliant dude, and actually has products that he's created specifically for himself. I lift up the Prostate Pro first, and before the end of this episode, we'll talk about physical health as well, physical fitness, because I know Tony's big into that as well. But this one I've been taking it now for 3 weeks. I'm now safely making it to 7 a.m. without peeing. Or having enough pain to where I have to go to the bathroom super early and wake up the dogs. Immune C, and of course the Doc's Viral Defense. He's got a whole line of stuff, including for acne. If you just go to thedrartistshow.com, again, that's thedrartistshow.com, use BFD at checkout. All the products are essentially made for specific reasons, and I also have a video that I'll put the link in for those that have gotten the shot, hence the don't get the shot seat, who have gotten the shot that want to find a way to get the glutathione up, cleanse the body, and kind of start from scratch and pretend like you never took the thing that none of us should have taken in the first place.
Hokey pokey.
Hokey pokey. Turn yourself around. So with the don't get the shot seat, let's go ahead and take a little sippy for Barb, since she wanted to call it the pussy seat because we didn't do it right. Anyways, so these are quick questions. How is that? Pretty good, tequila? Not bad. So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to ask you a question. that stiff water right there. If it's a difficult question, just take a sip. In all reality, it's just a prop. It doesn't really matter at this point. Okay. Now we know you like cars. Everybody knows you like cars. I think I know what you're going to answer on this one. If you could only drive one vehicle the rest of your life, what kind of car would it be?
1969 Camaro.
I did not see that coming. I was thinking because you love your Vipers. So.
I do love our Vipers, but my favorite car is always going to be a 1969 Camaro.
I like that. Okay. What is the most overrated car in the world?
I would say a Lamborghini Huracan or Gallardo.
Agreed. I'm not. So if there's one, because I had a Porsche for a bit, loved it. It was like my baby Ferrari. So if I were to ever say one car that I do want, and things, they matter a little less to me now. But I'm a Ferrari over Lamborghini guy.
The funny thing is, like when you go to the factory in Modena area, because I've been to the Ferrari, the Lamborghini, they take you on a tour to Lamborghini ones, and the tour guide actually 2 different times actually made fun of first time out was Gallardos were being built, and the second one the Huracans were being built, and they actually made fun of both of those. They're like, oh, that's like the baby Lamborghini, and they're literally pulling the parts out of boxes and just assembling them on an assembly line. And the bodies come from Audi. They're already painted. Like it's a shell that's already painted the color, and they bring it in on a forklift, like a giant forklift, and they just lower it on the assembly line, and they start putting shit in it. And one of the trivia questions they give you for the Lamborghinis, they said, you know why the doors don't have the wing doors? Like, you know why these don't have it? And it says, because those don't have the big engines. Like only the 12-cylinder Lamborghinis get the wing doors. So they're like making fun of their own entry-level cars at their own factory.
Entry level at $250,000.
Yeah. And so you have to get, if you want the Lamborghini, the real one, it needs to be the Aventador or anything that's the V12 with the wing doors.
Right, the ones that go, those start at about $400,000 or $500,000.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I don't even like them. I think they look. And one of my other questions, which I'm not going to ask, is the douchiest car you can have. Is there another douchey car besides the Lamborghini? Maybe downgrade. Let's go to that under. Yeah, anything.
Are we talking Dallas douchey? Are we talking Dallas douchey?
Dallas douchey is. I mean, that's just
that's
the BMW.
That's another level. Whew. No, I would say that it's probably still the Lamborghini. Yeah, I like Ferraris. I like all Ferraris. Yeah. I think they're rolling works of art.
Love the culture. Yeah.
And it's a different demographic, even though they're the same height and net worth. The personalities are a lot different.
Yeah.
You know, so I'll stick with the Lamborghinis, the entry level Lamborghinis. That's
it. I agree.
Yeah.
So now obviously college athletes are paid, and one of the quarterback I think for Texas is driving a Lamborghini, and they were like, I work with Fox Sports, and they're doing the interview with them. It's like, it's good to see these kids, investing in themselves. I'm like, that is not investing in themselves. That's the dumbest friggin' thing.
It doesn't help them on the field, and it's not. They don't need the branding. Your branding is on the field.
Right. This is your opportunity to get so you can actually invest in yourself early. And I think this was already a rich family, so he's like, screw it at this point. But it's like, this is your opportunity to start, because you don't know what kind of hit's going to happen. Your knee's going to get taken out. Like, how about start to invest? But, who am I? Screw it. I loved your video, so I want you to kind of give your opinion on the fake it till you make it line.
Oh, yeah, the fake it till you make it line. I think that there's a lot of times we're watching these influencers, I'll call them, online, and they're teaching you to Photoshop your face on the Forbes magazine cover, and they're teaching you to join the Forbes business councils and act like you got selected when you're really paying $2,500 a year to join a club, and pretend that, hey, I got published in Forbes again, and you didn't really, because what they don't understand is Forbes Council actually is a third-party company that licenses out the name, that builds their own website that makes it look identical to the Forbes website. So you're paying them to be in this club. And the worst part about this is if you join those councils or they're fake it to make it, all these magazines have their version of this.
Yeah.
And it's the same company, by the way. If you're publishing in that or you ever join that, you are barred from ever being featured in the real Forbes magazine, because there's a non-compete between those two because of the licensing agreement.
Yeah.
So good with your fake clout and fake it till you make it. And I see so many people out there doing that kind of stuff, especially on Facebook and Instagram. They're posting like this stuff and
stupid,
renting cars that they don't own, and it's just weird. Like just go create value, go help people, and
there's companies that will get you published in real Forbes, and they're not $2,500 a year. You're looking $2,500 a month. I did that one year, and if it was now, way better time to spend that $30,000, because there would have been a direct ROI. I would have been able to.
That's PR. See, that's different.
PR.
That's different.
Just getting it where you're like, Yeah, exactly.
Because even then, they're not guaranteed. Nowadays, they're going to say it's 20,000
Right.
for PR, and they'll go pitch the stories to the
Yeah.
editors, but they could just be like, nah.
Yeah, deuces.
Yeah.
Yep. There's gonna be one hard question out of this. Quick answer on this one. What's your favorite side hustle suggestions this day and age?
I think right now, I mean, we're doing part of it, the podcasting.
Yep.
I think podcast editing is a high demand thing. It's easy to learn, and you can earn $700 to $1,000 per client. So if you get 10, 15 shows, you can make 10 to 15,000 a month working from home in your pajamas at 2 a.m. eating donuts. You don't have to have a lot of skill to do sound editing and just be a good marketer to go build shows. If you do one good show, they're going to refer you to their friends.
Yep.
Go do both shows good, they're going to refer you to their podcasting friends, because most people jump into podcasting. I've been doing it for 4 years now. Initially, you do them yourself. You're like, oh, this is kind of cool. Then it becomes a procrastination thing, and you realize I should just be paying somebody to do this stuff.
That's what my girlfriend says about this.
Easy money. It's easy
I'm like,
money.
I'm
now.
grinding right now. I've spent, as I've said, spent a lot of money the last several years. I'm like, I'm gonna make my own videos, so at least they'll know the standard.
That's another one. Video editing.
Video editing, all that.
You could do video editing or podcast editing, which you could literally learn in 1 month, just reading books and looking YouTube. You can make a 6-figure income from that.
What is the biggest mistake entrepreneurs make? You alluded to it earlier, but
well, other than the coming in with not the business skill,
but
thinking that they can just be good at a craft and be successful at business, that's one. The number one reason most businesses go out of business is because of cash flow mismanagement. They don't understand that you got to have a reserve account with enough money to have the operations be paid. So if that's your payroll or your inventory or your past due things that you have to owe, your bills, your overhead. So you got to make sure that you earn your profit, but you build this reserve to dip into the cash flow. That way you don't go broke and you're having to take in business to pay for old business.
Yeah. Let's see. We got a last question. This is the hard one. If you can name some names or a name, who is that? There's that coach that you just think is just a fake coach.
I won't name any names.
What defines a fake coach?
This actually exists not just in coaching, but I would say even as far as the New York Times best-selling authors.
Yeah.
Okay, because there's been many times where I read a good book. I was like, man, that was a great book. And let me go learn some more about this author, see what else is out there that I can learn. And you start going down that rabbit hole and you realize that this person didn't accomplish shit in their lives before this book somehow got shared by some celebrity maybe, and it blew up, and now they're like the leadership expert or the mindset expert or they're whatever expert. They're making money now, but you realize like they didn't exemplify that. They didn't even prove that they could do that before that book came out. And so I see a lot of this stuff going on, and it's all shenanigans. And so when you're assessing coaches or people that you want to buy courses from or people you want to learn from, get on the damn Google machine and go start looking back and see what they've accomplished. Because if you can't find any evidence of their lifestyle, even going back a few years or what things that they accomplished, they're probably full of shit.
That's what I would assume too. That was the Don't Get the Shot. Shot seat. We'll be right back. All right, so real quick, while we're on the first 58 minutes, I want to make sure you give yourself the shouts of the 365 Driven podcast, the book, et cetera. We'll come back. We've got a lot. We still have 10, 15 minutes to talk about physical fitness and a little bit about cars, so make sure you stick around. But in the meantime, go ahead and where can people find your show and all that good stuff?
Yeah, keep it real easy. My website's 365 Driven, so 365driven.com, and you'll find my best-selling book, Side Hustle Millionaire. You'll find my top 1% rated show. It's 365 Driven, and all my social media channels. I'd love to hear from you. Like, shout out, let me know where you found this, and yeah, I'd love to hear from you.
Love it. All right, we will be right back with the rest of the show. Bonus time. So, talking a little bit about why businesses fail too, and I think the most common failure in business is restaurants. I think that's the one about I think like 5% actually make it, and people think restaurants have anything to do with the food. Absolutely not. Like it really is the business mindset. Some of the greatest businessmen can't cook, and they have great restaurants. It's really truly about running a business. That's why I wanted to start a restaurant at one point, and a friend of mine was like, you're going to fail. Every restaurant fails. Yeah. I was like, well, that's a great way to go into it. But fact is, I also know that it's much more than the food that goes into the business, and the naivete that people have going into it, that they can just create a restaurant is mind-boggling. Let's talk about having important people in your life. How long have you been married to Lisa?
Since 2005.
2005. How important is it to have that support system? And did you have to do any convincing to get her to believe in what you were doing?
No. And I'll even wind back, because I would say that the mother of my son did not support the things I did.
Interesting.
And she would make fun of it. She's like, oh, talking about cars on the internet, that's a waste of time. Like, that's stupid. So that didn't last very long, right?
Yeah.
And so when I met Lisa, she was actually kind of interested and excited that I was like doing something besides working and sitting on the couch every evening, right? So, she was around. I think the business was a couple years in. We've been together about 21 years now. And so, she was there from the beginning, like watching me start it and, making money doing it and understanding like, hey, this is what I do. And then also when I was working offshore and disappearing for 30 days at a time once in a while, like she understood that was just who she hired and who she married. I was like,
that's who she hired. I like that.
I was like, no, it's like, it's like just because that was the career I was already involved with when we met. So, so I think when it comes to relationships, they don't always have to be your biggest cheerleader. I mean, she is my biggest cheerleader, but I don't think that your spouse or your partner needs to be your biggest cheerleader, but they need to at least accept what you do and why you do it, and be okay with that, and not just try to disparage you or trying to talk you down. Because, I mean, if you were to look at my lifestyle now and the things I'm doing, and now if I would have said that this is what it's going to happen, and 20 years ago when we got together, she probably would have thought I was kind of crazy, right? Because I always think big, but the evolving has always been constant. We're always trying to improve. We're always trying to evolve, in both of us in our careers. And so I think it's important also to have the same core value alignments.
Big time.
I don't think, honestly, like political and religion, I think those are big, but I don't think those are necessities. I think a lot of times people carve each other out because of those disqualifiers, but I don't think that those are super important. I think communication, the willingness to stay in relationships and fight for what you have and see the value instead of all the negatives. Yeah. And just have the core values. Like if you guys want to raise kids together, like, kind of got to be on the same path with that, And so there's certain things that people just kind of just look at too much of how they look and how much money they have, and then they're unhappy,
What does your ex-wife think of how you've done for yourself?
Well, first, we're never married.
Oh, how's your ex-baby mama?
What does she think now? I really don't care.
Yeah.
I really don't care. I mean, as soon as my son turned 18, like I unfriended her on Facebook.
Right. Yeah. Well, hey, you got to cut the ties that don't serve you.
Exactly. I mean, exactly.
Speaking of cutting ties, we should cut ties with our own federal government. Obviously, with small business and entrepreneurialism, they're very tied together. I mean, thankfully, thankfully, I'm not. I went 18 months building this, starting to do stuff like this, which was great, but I didn't have an income for a long time. So we saw how much power the federal government and state governments can have over our businesses.
Right.
So why are politics so important to entrepreneurialism and small business at this point?
Well, I mean, if 2020 and 2021 weren't good enough indicators for you when they started telling you if you were non-essential or essential, and that you could work and then you couldn't. And, I see a lot of people abusing that because, shout out to all my performance shop guys that said, oh, we're car repair centers, and they still got to work, right? Because technically that's what they're listed as for like tax reasons, right? Yeah. So that really pissed me off when they started saying business owners were non-essential, and they started closing, like you said, restaurants, and they're just cherry picking like who's essentially non-essential, and a lot of it was just bullshit, and that really pissed me off. And I think it's kind of fun nowadays because I get to go look on those Facebook memories because they record all of our posts. Yeah. And I've literally got like 2 years of I told you so's that have all come true. And a lot of people were getting pissed off that I was being very vocal, just like you are very vocal.
I lost a lot.
We did. Yep. We had family members that were alienated and things like that, and and then they try to get you riled up in every aspect of politics. It's like, dude, I don't really care about the social stuff because I would say I'm socially liberal. Like, I'm okay with all the LGBTQ and flags and all. Like, cool, like, whatever makes you happy, cool. Go do you, right? Yeah. But don't tell me that I have to say things or I have to believe that you're a man when I know you're not, right? Yeah. So there's certain things that I find that the leftist progressives try to force their ideals on everybody while they say that they're always, tolerant and they love, and it's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. Like, they only want to be tolerant of people that agree with them. Right. And then equally opposite is the far right people are just going ape shit crazy. And like, why are they beating the abortion drum again? Like that, they could have just left that alone. Like, why are they beating that drum so loudly again? It's like,
and it's going to hurt in the midterm.
It doesn't help them. It doesn't, like, they haven't learned strategy that 80% of the population consider themselves moderates. And so
it's a huge risk going into this election. And we both live in Texas, and honestly, Beto scares me. Not because I don't think we can always Ian Smith ourselves and say, screw you, I'm not closing my doors and take the fines. But Beto loves seeing Lindsey Graham say, we're going to create a federal rule for abortion. It's like that.
It doesn't even make sense.
It doesn't. That was our whole thing. Was it's a state that was how we could get out of the conversation. And I am liberal in some ways. I don't believe in celebrating abortion, but I'm not somebody that's like, nope, not allowed to. I think that's ridiculous. But now, because I'm that way and open-minded, I talk to a lot of right-leaning voters. That this brings them back to the other way. And now they're going, look, they're trying to create a federal thing. I thought they said this was state rights. And it's like, oh my God, we are shooting ourselves in the foot.
It's so stupid. It's like, it's unnecessary because everybody that was on the right was already going to vote. And you're already starting to get a lot of leftist moderates that were going to vote Republican. So you throw this stupid monkey wrench into the tactics. It's like, now people start moving, like you said, a little bit the other way. And it's like, what was the purpose of that? Like, you got Democrats self-imploding, really just shooting themselves in the foot. Like, and now you're going to try to help them by creating some polarizing topic. And furthermore, I mean, I hate hypocrites in all regards. And so you and I, we talked about these things about everybody was like the mandates and things like that, like forcing people, and like, it's, it's our body, it's our right? Like, literally, like, all the people on the right have been saying this for the last 2 years, like, you can't force me to do this, it's my rights. And now you're going to go talk about abortions. It's like,
my body, my choice.
It's the same shit. Like, you can't say both. Like, it's either all or nothing. Like, what do you want?
It's hard for
freedom
me.
or no freedom. What do you want?
And that's why the abortion topic. And I did a whole show with actually Marie Cosgrove, and we had a whole roundtable on it. And I chose the side of pro-choice. Do I think I would ever be a part of getting one? I don't believe so. Like, that's not. It's not. I don't think it's necessarily right. But I also, at the same time, can't judge somebody else's life.
That's right.
And I was the prototypical my body, my choice. The jab is about what my belief system is. And I get that when it comes to an abortion, you're talking about a potential human life.
Right.
And I had Yaku Boyens across me too, and we had a great conversation because it is, if I believed, and this is the unfortunate thing, and I'm sorry for some of our viewers, if I truly believed that a 7-week-old fetus was a child, then that to me, I'm probably thinking it's murder. But to me, I see it brought up on a TV screen, and I know that it looks big, but it's really, to me, it's not any different than killing a living animal that we all do, as hunters. I think it's got so many gray areas that it's a dangerous topic, and it should just be a little bit more hands-off. You can impress your belief system, but we should not be legislating it on a federal level, which is now it's being proposed a month and a half before the midterm elections.
Yeah, I'm all for ending the late-term abortions because that's just disgusting. That's strange, right? But the thing is that this goes back, they always distill it back into a religious belief, and that's okay. Like, if you're highly religious and you believe that creation's created by the inception moment, like, that's great. Believe that. But then again, you cannot force your ideals or your beliefs on other people. And that's the way I think about that. It's like, I'll call myself pro-choice, even though I don't really care about abortion. I wouldn't want to do it, but I'm not going to stop other people that want to do that. It's like, that'd be like, point,
as you said.
That'd be like saying, like, I don't have any tattoos, therefore you can't have tattoos.
Right.
Or, like the alcohol. I don't drink alcohol, so but you can't drink it because I don't want. Like, it's just stupid. Like, let people be happy and do what they want.
Let people live
within the laws. Like, just anything that's criminal or that's going to harm other people. I mean, you think about, like, on the topic of abortion itself, like, we value life. Bullshit. Like, we don't value life. Like, people get murdered and they're released on bail the same day, and then they go serve 2 years. Like, you don't value life at all. Like, you're sending soldiers off to war. You're not valuing life. Like, there's a lot of examples where we don't really value life. We got people that entered the Capitol on January 6th that they're calling insurrection, trying to take over the country with picket signs, and they're locked up with the key thrown away. You don't value their life. They're locked away
True story.
in a dark cave and being treated like political pawns. So
Good friend of mine.
this country does not value life. And, shit, go walk in the wrong streets of Chicago or even Houston or even Dallas. You're going to see that life is not valued too much.
Yeah, I'll pass. Let's see. So before we wrap, I want to make sure we talk about some cars. Cars and physical fitness. We're on the politics, so let's just really quick do physical fitness. You've gotten yourself in great shape. How much better shape are you in now than you were 5 to 10 years ago?
I started back at 40. So
about 9 years now.
Mid-30s, I let myself kind of get lazy and soft. And I had all the convenient excuses that most people have, like, football injuries and sore shoulder, lower back. And, because the reality is when you go get on a treadmill and you're fat and you got like the jelly rolls, like you could feel like your chest and your man boobs bouncing around, and it just feels uncomfortable. You're like, this sucks. I don't want to do this shit. And so basically, 40, I started thinking like, this is just a bunch of bullshit excuses, because I see a lot of examples of like 60 and 70-year-old dudes that are still jacked. It's like, it's bullshit. And, my wife, she's always gone to the gym, and she didn't like force me. And she'll, hey, I'm going to go. You want to go? Like, nah.
That's good.
Soldier, and my shoulder's hurting, or I just had a lot of excuses. And the main reason was because, and this, stick with me on this one, because most people that were thin or in shape at some point in their lives, and they let themselves go, which is the vast majority, you're not alone if this is you realize how much work you're going to have to do to get back to zero, just to get back to average. So if you're average and you're not fat and you're not skinny or whatever, and you let yourself go, you're going to have to spend months and actually sweat and actually make yourself sore just to get back to zero. And I think that's what defeats most people from going back. And that's what used to go through my mind. I was like, man, it's going to take a lot of work just to get back to like average looking. And then when you get to that, you start to get the momentum wave and you can start going ahead. So I've been really disciplined for 10 years now. And I usually typically go to the gym like 6 days a week. I just take 1 day a week off.
Yeah.
But, man, we just go. It's part of our lifestyle. And I have no regrets. Because when you're in your 40s and you're in good shape, like you actually stand out. Like everybody expects you to look good in your 20s. But when you're like in your 40s or your 50s or older and you actually look good, they're like, damn, you actually stand out in the crowd.
Yeah. I was just doing Fox Sports this last week, and I'm a hype guy there. So I just turned 40. And the college kids are shocked when I tell them I'm 40 years old, because I become a different person. I'm running in circles, getting about 8 miles on my step thing, jumping up and down, yelling at them. And they're like, I don't think at 40. And they're 18 to 21. I had one kid that turns out we followed each other on social media, and I saw that he was from St. Louis. We actually went to the same high school. The difference is he was born after I graduated, and there he was at college. I was like, oh, shit. Yeah. So I agree with you. And I remember Bedros talking at the Great American Summit, and I was the heaviest I've been in a while at that summit. And I remember him saying, I wouldn't go to, if we think our country's going to shit. Super powerful. He's like, I wouldn't go to war with pretty much anybody I see in this room. And I instantly got back in shape. And I've taken him, I think, about 3.5 weeks off right now. And it's still at least sustained to a point. And I got back down to running about 6-minute miles. And I was like, and it was because he said, I'm like, if we really think our country is in the situation where, get your ass back in shape, because we don't know when we're going to be running, fighting, whatever it might be. Not advocating civil war, to be very clear.
Yeah.
Let's talk cars, because I do love talking. I entered the automotive industry not even knowing what a lug nut was, but I seemed, because I can talk, people assume they're like, okay, you got this guy must be a car guy. I wasn't, and now I am. And I worked, as I talked to you earlier, I worked for Nissan. No longer work for them. Those were my closest friends. Turned out they were they weren't happy that I took pictures on the lawn on January 6th at the Capitol, and I really have not. They haven't spoken to me since, and they were my closest friends. But it was cool working and learning about the automotive industry and being a product specialist, because you have to learn a little bit about every brand. Do you think the modern car industry is creating good products right now?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the quality's only improved since the 1980s.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of times people look at Japanese imports and they think that the Toyotas and the Nissans and Mitsubishis are like the highest quality because of things that went on in the 1970s and the 80s when American cars were shit.
Garbage.
Right? Quality's the same on all these. I have mechanics. I work on all these cars. I think that, we're very patriotic. We like American vehicles. I have a bunch of American vehicles, and I work on those. And I see the other ones I've worked on. Her family members have brought cars over, and I've messed with those too. And they're equal now.
Yeah.
So, and even like nowadays, like most people don't realize like Kia and Hyundai are actually Korean vehicles. They're not Japanese.
Right.
They think they're Japanese because they don't know any better, because it sounds like an Asian name. But There was a time, even in the 1990s, when people made fun of Hyundai and Kia, like those are shitbox
That was the
Korean
early
vehicles.
2000s, yeah.
And now their quality's on par with everyone's too. So
Yeah.
I think that a lot of the talent and the engineering gets transferred from different divisions and different companies. So we're getting a lot of the lessons learned. I mean, these big companies like, like Stellantis, Fiat, they owned Ferrari and Dodge and Jeep at the same time. So you don't think they're sharing some technologies and learned lessons from all these different things to try to make a better product? They absolutely are. And you mentioned the Dodge Vipers earlier. A lot of the parts in there actually were things that they borrowed from Ferrari, which was they owned that at the same time. So like the seats, the seatbelt seats, those are from Ferrari, and the Dodge Vipers. So a lot of things that they learned, they kind of put in. And
Cadillac suspension shares with Ferrari. Like there, I mean, it's a lot of crossbreeding. And then you brought up something, and this is a conversation working for Nissan I had to have, especially when I worked at Detroit Auto Show, which is actually going on right now. Like I don't mess with anything but American brands. I have news for you, and not news for you, news for them. There is no such thing as an American brand anymore. No. It's all
sourced
global.
everywhere.
Yeah, Toyota technically uses more for years. I don't know if it's changed in the last couple. Used more American build and products than any other manufacturer in the world. I don't love
the
driving
trucks,
Toyota.
especially the
Tundra
Tundras.
and the Camry was the highest amount of product. So it's funny, like having these. We have an old mindset on vehicles, and really everybody shares technology. So if you were to like a $30,000 vehicle, recommend it to somebody, what brands do you go after? Suggestions.
I'd go get a Camaro or a Mustang for me. I mean, 30,000.
You were talking a lot of smack about Ford on your.
I always have fun with them. I built the #1 GM website in the world. I have to talk smack on Ford. I mean, come on.
What I don't like about GM, in all honesty, and I don't know how close you are with the GM people anymore. You've got Toyota and you've got what's their higher end? Lexus. You've got Nissan, you got Infiniti, which that's kind of gone to shit in the Infiniti side. When you have a higher end vehicle, a premium, and you have problems, you get the premium service. You usually get to go to the higher end. When you have a Cadillac and a GM, when you have problems, you have to go to GM, and that drives me absolutely nuts.
No, you go to Cadillac, man. They treat you the same as the high end stuff. We've had Audis. We drove up here in a Cadillac.
You have Cadillac. So
they wash your car and all kinds of stuff. Well, they have like a little fancy coffee machine.
That's the dealership, like Sewell. Like that's the dealership. I agree with the dealership, but when you have to go to corporate, when you have like a corporate issue, and I had a horrible experience with Sewell, and I had to start talking because again, I hate to say like I know the industry. Like if I assumed that I would be talking to Cadillac reps, and I was talking to GM reps for what was a pretty big problem.
It makes sense.
So mad.
It makes sense.
But I like I don't like Toyotas, but I do like Lexuses. I think there really is. There's a lot of great cars out there. Now my final spin into question. What's your opinion on electric vehicles?
I like the performance of them. I think that the technology is going to improve. I understand that our electrical grid is challenged, especially you Californians maybe listening to this like, shit, they all want us to have EVs and we can't even charge them now.
Yeah.
But
by the way, technically, if you're in California, you can. Just don't listen.
Let's put this in perspective. In the 1980s in the United States, people also made fun of diesels, and they said, there's not enough diesel pumps everywhere, and if you have a diesel, you're going to run out of gas in the middle of nowhere because nobody's got diesels, and now diesels are everywhere. Mm-hmm. So the infrastructure will grow. Technologies with charging and batteries and storage and weight and all that will improve.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of time. I think that the performance, man, it's amazing. Like you can go buy a Tesla Plaid, which is an American vehicle, guys, patriotic.
Yeah.
And you can go run a 9.2 second quarter mile with a warranty.
1.9
with a warranty. 150. They'll trap 155 miles per hour in the quarter mile off the showroom floor with a warranty. That is ridiculous.
Stupid.
That is ridiculous. That's equivalent to one of my Vipers is 1,200 horsepower, and it runs that. Mm-hmm. You can go buy that with a warranty for $120,000. I'm
a big Tesla junkie. I like Tesla. I also I have a 2014, which people don't know. I get free if you're under 2016, you get free supercharging.
We'll see
for life.
See.
So there's a bonus to a lot of, especially when gas prices go up. I do think it's interesting that diesel has stayed really high. In terms of that, because that is one of those ones. It's like gas prices are being manipulated back down right now.
Yeah, strategic oil reserves being depleted at record levels.
Yeah, like we're doing good, Joe.
You guys expect a rebound that's going to be equally ugly. You wait, because when Joe drains that strategic oil reserve, the prices are going to go
all right back up, and people don't even realize that our inflation is more based on diesel because that's how the trucks and whatever. But we don't have to get too far into that. But yeah, the electric vehicles. The last thing I do say is people are like, "Oh, you drive a Tesla, environmentalists." And it's like there's a lot more conservatives that drive Teslas because first off, they're fun to drive, like you said. And I think anybody that actually looks into electric vehicles, they are not doing shit for the environment. The lithium,
They're not.
I mean, they are pillaging the natural resources.
It's just it's a fun vehicle. I mean, guys, if you haven't driven a Tesla Plaid, go drive one. And it will scare the shit out of you.
Yep. I think my mom had a stroke just on because she literally
Model 3 or
she just did the little kickback. I know I had it's an old S and it's enough, right? I mean it's 3.7 I think off the line.
Yeah.
And she still is guilt tripping me that she hasn't felt the same since. And
it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I the first time I drove one, I was like, I know they're fast, but it's probably not going to be that scary. Like I was like, holy shit, this thing is scary. Yeah, I need her to drive one. I think she would be like, "Holy shit!"
Yeah, and even the three, because it feels different. Because I had a Cadillac V. I had the whatever one I had. It's not the CTS. ATS V, and that was a 3.7 car, but it still didn't feel like it's just
it's not the same at all.
Like it's not the same at all. The back of your seat compared to the squiggly.
I guess for most people, you can relate to is if you've ever driven an electric golf cart. You know when you when you first push the accelerator button, it kind of goes, and you feel it, and then it kind of peters out because that's all it's got.
Yeah.
But imagine like that feeling, like accelerating all the way to like 150 miles per hour.
Just going.
It's just ridiculous.
And then your 300-mile range gets down to about 72.
It's a great car if you commute less than 20 miles a day and you have the infrastructure to charge it up. Like that's a great option.
Yeah. And that's what it's for most people. For me, I've strategically done it because I drive my girlfriend's place is about 110 miles.
Yeah.
If you do it right, and now that I get free supercharging when I get back into town, I'm spending like $10 on electricity.
That's great.
A week, and that's if I'm going back and forth a bunch, which you can't beat. Last two very, 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 very fast questions. Biggest failure you've ever had in your life, and how you bounce back from it.
Biggest failure, I would say, staying with business. Biggest failure is when you start to think about just because you were successful at one thing that you can be successful at something else. So you try to start other companies that are similar, maybe in that same space. And, I've had 4 companies that have done very well, but I've created 9. And so most people think they only really see the number one of the 4. So, like I talked to the 2 automotive sites, LS1 Tech was the number 1. PerformanceTrucks.net was right on its heels. On its own, is actually a very successful business, right? 280,000 members, same type of revenue, but nobody even knows about that one, right? Yeah. That's the number 2 on your portfolio. So don't be afraid to create businesses and understand that you're going to keep striking out till you hit one, and don't think you're going to hit a grand slam on your first try. That's just stupid because, even if we look at baseball analogies, like the best base hitters were always batting like 30%.
Yeah.
Like they're the Hall of Fame batters are 30% hitters.
Batting 300, yeah.
So when you think about that, like entrepreneurship is really similar. I mean, you're going to meet these people that want to sell you the idea that they're successful in everything. Don't learn from those people because they've never been punched in the face before. And as soon as they are, you'll see who they truly are.
Right.
Like you'll see the real character when they fail. So
and most of them have, and you don't even see it because people think that it's like, one hit one, they were great. No, so they probably face some kind of adversity.
So your wins will overshadow your losses, and nobody will even remember your second placed win. So do you think they're going to remember your loss? No, they're not going to remember your loss. Go win. So the other thing I would add to that is for people that are just getting started, like really, really seriously evaluate if you need a business partner, and it's probably should not be your best friend. It's just you got to have 2 different skill sets, 2 different mindsets to bring to the table, and never
so attacked, right?
Never start a business with a business partner just for financial reasons, because you'd much rather have a loan and pay back a loan than having someone taking 50% of your profits because they're acting like a bank.
And you feel guilty because you can't have a real conversation with your friend.
That's right.
Been there. I would always recommend finding somebody that compliments you the best.
That's right.
Otherwise, it will lead to a lawsuit.
That's right. If you're a marketer, find an operator. If you're an operator, find a marketer.
Exactly. Big time. And then last but not least, because I want to make sure with what you have going on, we talked about it earlier. You guys did a retreat. Was that your first time doing the retreats together? Which I have to, Kelly and I really want to go to one. So we're going to try to make it follow our schedules, which is stupid, but we're going to try to do it. What possessed you guys to start doing retreats, and what are people getting out of those?
So we've done 4 different events. They're always destinations. They tend to run 4 days. We bring in speakers. We speak for 1 day, then we do adventures. We've done things like whitewater rafting in Montana. We've hiked the Zion Narrows Canyon in Utah. We've done Cancun, Mexico area, the beach type resort. We even rented the performance driving school. We formerly known as Bondurant in Arizona. We rented it out.
Is it not Bondurant anymore?
No, it's called Radford Racing School.
Okay.
And so all of the attendees and the speakers, we went to racing school for a day.
Oh, that's badass.
So we always do these bucket list items. And what we realize is that entrepreneurs don't take a lot of time off. So we created these vacations that they can basically expense as a business expense because we're teaching them education. There has a day of speaking, we're networking, and we're getting them out, we're getting them to meet people. And each of these 4 events, what I really liked, we limit them to 50 people. We keep them small intentionally because we want to make sure that there's good interactions and things like that. And each of these events has become its own family. And we get to sit back and look at the communities that we've built and how these people are doing joint ventures and they're supporting each other and they're in social media and they're collaborating and doing these cool things. So it's like, that's what we like to see is like these families. And we've seen so many examples of that. And it's really a lot like the larger LS1 Tech and stuff. Like we built massive families and connections and lifelong friendships. We're just doing that with the entrepreneurship space now. So I'm very fortunate to married to Lisa that loves planning vacations and traveling. When we met, she was a Marriott event coordinator. Right. So she's had that background and she enjoys doing that. She does it with all of her friends and her family. And so planning events and all the details and things like that. I'm the marketer. I'll go build the audience. I can see all the business model. She loves to do the traveling. So that's like how we combine and make these awesome events.
And then the connections that you help foster pay you off in the end, because then if you need something, and then you can help them. And it really is. That's how true entrepreneurship works. Right. And then you guys, and you do real estate as well.
She's a realtor in Texas. And nice. I just really help with the back end on that, the business side of it. So
yeah, I don't want to know what you guys do in your personal life. Yeah. All right, that was it. Please do us one last favor, 365 Driven. Give all the different places where they get the book, all the good stuff that you do, and how they can find you.
Yeah, 365driven.com is the website. Keep it simple there. And Tell me where you came. Hit me on Instagram at 365driven.
The gram. And you great content. Make sure you follow him there. And on Facebook. Always has really good motivational videos. I don't know where he got it. Maybe doing it for 365 straight days of the year.
I got a lot of content.
And a lot of content. Content after content after content, which consistency is king, especially as you're growing. Which is why I make 78 videos per week. There's going to be some good drops from this one. Thank you guys for joining. Again, if you want to support the show, please go to patreon.com/bluntforce discussion. Again, that's patreon.com/bluntforce discussion. Check out all of our sponsors. All the links will be in the comment section. AwakeNotWokeStore.com is where you're going to find all the gear. Everybody's favorite. Oh, did you? Joe, you sandbagging son of a bee sting. Saves me some time at the end. Go there, use Awake for 15% off. Most popular shirt is, of course, Unvaccinated Lives Matter. Let's just be clear. And lastly, on this episode, I love that we get to do something a little bit different. A lot of times we talk just politics. Sometimes we talk about things like abortion, and then we go a wide range of different topics. This is a fun one where I hope that you guys get to take something from it. When we had Liddell on, Liddell Bugs, same thing. We talked about real estate. We talked about commercial real estate. This one we talked about essentially how to make sure you can live the life that you deserve to live and be around people, be willing to invest in yourself, and truly be the change you wish to be in your own life so that you can help those around you. And ultimately, that's how you become a success. Take it easy, guys. Thank you for joining on Blunt Force Discussion.